this is the part two of IELTS speaking. Now, as I said in the general introduction of IELTS speaking, that part two is basically you get a topic and you also get some sub points on it so that you can develop and structure your speech accordingly. And you'll be given 1 minute to prepare for the topic. And then after that, will be given 1 to 2 minutes to express yourself, give your opinions on the given topic. Over here, it is not a two-way discussion. It's only you speaking to the examiner, and based on what you speak in part two, few questions would be asked in part three. So be very sure and clear about what you state, what you like comment in part two, because you need to answer few questions in part three based on what you mention in part two. In this video, I have given few examples so that will help you to understand how we can structure ourselves, how we can manage time, and how you can go about in part two. So this is the first example. This is a very basic example that I have chosen as my first example because I did not want it to complicate things much. So in this, the topic that you have is describe what do you like doing the most in your free time, and the sub point that you have is when is the first that you started doing this activity, how frequently do you do the activity, and whether do you like do it on your own or you like to engage with other people in this activity. So when you get 1 minute's time, you need to jot down certain points. So based on this sub point, this will help you to jot down the points that you will speak after your 1 minute duration. So I have given a rough points over here, that is swimming, you like to do it on your own, a 5 years experience. It helps you to keep active and relaxing twice in a week. Now when you jot down these points, it will help you to transform these points in a simple statement. So you can say that in my free time, I like to do many activities, but the activity that I like the most is swimming. I prefer to do it on my own, but at times I also like to go with my friends on swimming practice section. I am a trained swimmer since 5 years, and this activity helps me keep myself active and also helps me to relax during my free time. Due to the tight work or study schedule that I have, I don't get much time to dedicate towards this activity. But whenever I get time, I dedicate 2 days in a week for this activity. So when you have points, you can convert those points into statements. So write those points which you are able to transform and structure into a good speech, which will give a good impression. Make sure that you have a flow. A flow means basically an introductory line, maybe a main body which tells you how why do you do this activity or what inspired you to do that activity, and then a concluding line of what you plan to do in this activity in future. So in this way you can structure your speech, and you can easily manage 1 to 2 minutes time that you are given to speak. The next example that I have chosen is to describe an important event in the history of your country. Now, if you want to talk about any event, you should be sure about those event. You need to have a basic idea about what the event was, what happened during those event, and what was the concluding part of that event. Like what lessons that event gave, or what was the outcome of that event. Because you need to be sure about these things because you have to speak for 1 to 2 minutes. You can't just mention an event that you don't know about, you don't know that who started this event or not, because then it would not give you a margin to speak for 1 to 2 minutes. Now over here there are some sub points which are given for our help. So the sub points are like what event it was, when did it occur, how do you know about this event, what do you think, why do you think that the event was important. Now in this case, if I would be in your place, I would structure my answer in the following areas. So you can start with like every country has its own history, and India too has a rich historical background. Then you can talk about the event, like the event that you can mention about the event by talking about it. Then you can say that okay, Mahatma Gandhi started the Swadeshi movement. Then during this event, what changes happened? Now, maybe during this event, there was an increase in patriotism in the country. People started boycotting the British products, which they initially were forced to use, and started using Indian products. This not only helped to boost the Indian economy, but also people could, start up their own business. People could give more favor to Indian business. Maybe there was a change in culture, there was change in education systems. People were trying to educate their children more. There were more schools open. So you can mention those changes. Then, when did you come to know about this event? Now, you might have come to know about this event across some article that you read in the newspaper, or maybe like during your studies in back in school. So you mentioned that, and why do you think that it was important? Now you can say that events like this gave freedom to India because this you were under a British rule, and small events like this help us achieve our freedom. So you can just conclude it in that way. So this helps when you jot down the points like this helps you to structure your statement. Now, if you want to speak about this, you can say that every country has its own history. India too has a rich historical background. Today, over here, I would like to talk about one important event in the history of India, which is the Swadeshi movement. It was started by Mahatma Gandhi, the father of our nation. It involved boycotting the use of all the things of foreign origin. It brought a sense of patriotism among the people of India. This patriotism was very much indeed in those days, needed in those days. Actually, the Britisher forced the Indian people to buy the products, and the whole profit went into their pockets. This was not helping the economy, and this movement helped us to give a boost to the economy. During this movement, there were many schools that were open up, and children for all castes were allowed to study in those schools. Education became a primary importance then. I came to know about this event during my history course back in school. It was an important event because many such small events led to the boost of the Indian economy, led the Indian economy to boost and gave freedom to India in 1947. So this is how you complete your speech. Even I made many mistakes because I am not prepared for the speech, and that's okay. You can also make the same mistakes and you can correct them. I have also corrected some mistakes. You can take pause whenever required. You can forget some things, that is okay, but make sure that you know what you are speaking. Make sure that it is in a continuous flow. You don't stop unnecessary, and if you want to think about it, don't take a pause like which is very long. So you'll hopefully be through if you practice all this. There's also one example which I have given for practice. So this is about describe a piece of electronic equipment that you find useful. And to support this, you have 4 points. What it is, how do you learn to use it, how long you have used it, and explain why do you find this equipment useful. Now over here you can take maybe smartphones or laptops, anything that is of your preference that you know the most and you can speak about it. Now if you take laptops, you can say that initially during the schools, computer learning was an important subject, and previously monitors were the main inventions during the age that you were studying. And after that, technology changed. There were technological developments, and laptop came into place. Laptop was very similar to compute monitors for operation, so I had not invested much time learning laptops. And how long do you use it? You can say that okay, whenever you have used it for office works or maybe for projects or for any other stuff. And why do you think the equipment is useful? You can say that this technological change is very useful because you can easily and conveniently carry those things anywhere, unlike monitors where you have to sit in one place and do your work. But laptops have given much more ease and convenience and more access to you, so you can just draft it accordingly. The same way I drafted the previous example, you can practice this. Next is the things that you don't have to do in part two, or the people don't expect you to do on part two. Is do not talk about things that are not directly related to the topic. Now, as I said, that you need to face the consequences of whatever you speak in part two, in part three for some of the questions. So be sure about what you're speaking about the topic. Don't go around and around for a topic. Just directly state what you want to in a given topic. Do not hesitate for a too long during conveying your answers, because if you take a too long pause, it is very disruptive. So if you want, you can just pause for a minute. You can think if you want, because at times when you jot down some points, you don't remember how to formulate a statement. So you can take a pause and form a statement and go ahead. It is upon you. You can also look at the points that you have. That's okay. If you have made grammatical mistakes, it's okay, you can correct it, but don't make too many mistakes and correct it all the time, because it will not give a good flow to your conversation. And do not wait for any feedback. This is not I said at a two-way conversation, and you will not get any feedback at the end of the speech. So just convey whatever you want to convey, and end your speech very very well. Make sure that your speech has three parts. There is an introductory line, a main body, and a concluding part. Do not end your speech in between. Give a concluding line irrespective of the warning given to you if you have exceeded the time. Uh, if you practice at home, you will have a rough idea about when it is about to get over, so that you can end your speech accordingly. When you practice every day for 1.5 minutes, when during the time of exam, you'll be aware of, okay, it is like close to a minute or close to two. So you can prepare a concluding line and give a concluding line and make it as a complete speech.